Racist cop holds black FBI agent at gunpoint. His chief arrives and RIPs the badge off his chest. Naomi Reynolds had spent 30 years carrying a badge that said Federal Bureau of Investigation, but nothing on that shield had ever protected her from the way some men looked at her skin before they saw her authority. And on that winter evening inside Westfield Grocery, the fluorescent lights hummed above the frozen aisle as Officer Travis Wilson's shaking hand hovered near his holster, sweat already gathering under his brow, even though the store air was cold enough to fog breath. FBI, Naomi said calmly, voice tempered by decades of high-stakes arrests and calm under fire. My credentials are in my inner jacket pocket. I'm reaching slowly. But Wilson's eyes twitched, his jaw tightening as if her confidence itself was provocation. Save it, ma'am. Every suspect's got a fancy title these days, he muttered, finger easing against the trigger, unaware that across town, Police Chief Robert Jackson, the only black police chief Milfield, Virginia had ever seen, was about to receive a phone call that would end a career, ignite a town, and remind America that prejudice doesn't wear a uniform. It hides inside it. Before we go deeper, let's rewind. Just hours earlier, Naomi had wrapped up a 14-hour day investigating a string of hate-driven arsons targeting black-owned businesses across Northern Virginia. She was exhausted, hungry, and too proud to admit that the lonely quiet of her home felt emptier since her husband died 4 years earlier. Her daughter Amara, studying pre-law at Howard, had texted 3 times. You ate yet? Don't skip dinner again. Love you. So Naomi stopped at Westfield, pushing her cart like any other customer, scanning vegetables, grabbing milk, thinking about whether to splurge on the fancy pasta sauce. She wore a navy suit, heels, and that composed face all black women in authority learn to keep. The one that says, I belong here even when you think I don't. She didn't notice the new cashier whispering into a store phone, glancing at her. Cart whispering words like acting suspicious. Because in Milfield, a black woman reading a label too long could make somebody nervous. 10 minutes later, Officer Travis Wilson walked in. 27, 3 years on the force, 6 complaints buried by internal affairs. He'd passed the academy by the skin of his uncle's political favors, the same uncle who liked to say over dinner that these diversity hires are taking over the country. Travis believed it. He believed it so much that seeing Naomi in her tailored suit, confident and self-contained, felt like a challenge. He moved down the aisle, hand resting on his holster before he even spoke. ID, he said flatly. Naomi kept her hands where he could see them. Officer, can I ask what the concern is? We got a call about suspicious behavior. You match the description. What description is that? She asked softly. He didn't answer. The silence was answer enough. Shoppers started watching. A little boy in a red jacket tugged his mother's sleeve. She pulled him away. Naomi had lived this moment too many times to count, the silent test of dignity. She took a slow breath, the kind that calmed hostages, and agents alike, and said evenly, I'm reaching for my wallet. Slowly. But Travis didn't want calm. He wanted control. Don't move, he barked, voice cracking, and then the gun was out, metal gleaming under freezer lights, aimed straight at her chest. The crowd gasped. Someone whispered, Oh my God. Naomi lowered herself to her knees, the tile cold through her slacks, and narrated like she was trained to. For the record, I am Special Agent Naomi Reynolds with the FBI, credentials in my left inside jacket pocket, service weapon holstered beneath my blazer per policy. Wilson's eyes narrowed. Sure you are. He clicked his radio. Dispatch. Got an armed suspect claiming federal status. Request immediate backup. No camera light blinked red on his chest. Body cam off. Your camera isn't recording, officer, Naomi said. Policy requires... You don't tell me policy, he snapped, stepping closer. Hands behind your head. The word ma'am never crossed his tongue. She did as told, feeling the burn of metal cuffs bite into her wrists. Around them, the air thickened with fear and phones recording shaky footage. The store manager, Alicia Chen, finally pushed through the bystanders. "Officer, she's a regular. She's never caused trouble." "Back away," Wilson warned. "Interfere and you're under arrest." Alicia hesitated, then lifted her phone to record too. That tiny act of courage would change everything. Naomi said calmly for the cameras, "Officer, you are detaining a federal agent without cause. Please contact Police Chief Robert Jackson immediately." "Right," Wilson sneered. "You just happen to know the chief." But 15 minutes later, the sound of a police siren cut through the murmurs outside. The doors opened. Chief Jackson walked in. He filled the space with presence alone, tall, composed, eyes sharp as razors. He scanned the scene. A black woman in cuffs, a white officer sweating under the weight of his own arrogance, shoppers frozen mid-aisle. "Remove the handcuffs," Robert said. Wilson stiffened. "With respect, sir, the suspect was—" "That was an order." The key turned. The cuffs fell. Naomi stood slowly, rubbing the marks on her wrists, dignity intact. Robert examined her ID, then faced Wilson, voice calm but lethal. "Officer, your camera is off, your suspect is a federal agent, and your explanation just became a disciplinary hearing. Hand over your weapon and badge." "Chief, you can't—" "Now." The badge came off with a faint metallic click that sounded like justice finding its first breath. Phones caught it. The video went viral before midnight. By morning, half the country called Naomi a hero, the other half called her a liar. On cable news, she was the black female agent targeted while grocery shopping. Online, trolls said she must have provoked it. But inside Robert Jackson's home, she was just Naomi, his childhood friend from Maple Creek, the girl who raced him on bikes and dreamed of making the law mean something. "You okay?" he asked over coffee. "I've been through worse," she said, but they both knew worse had a body count. Internal Affairs reopened Wilson's record. 6 complaints, all involving force against black suspects, all buried. And when Naomi mentioned her ongoing case, fires, hate graffiti, the same handwriting showing up near Milfield, Robert's jaw clenched. "We had 2 accidental fires at black businesses," he said. "Same investigator signed both reports, appointed by the old chief." "Mercer," Naomi guessed. He nodded. The Old Boy Network had a new link. She extended her stay. Set up at the FBI's satellite office. Built her evidence wall, photos of burned storefronts, spray-painted slurs, and the same blue and white cruiser parked near each scene. Then a text from Robert. "Alicia Chen's being watched. Patrol car outside her house. Same unit number Wilson used." Naomi added Alicia's name to the witness list. That night, the office lights died suddenly. Power outage, but the rest of the block glowed. "Down," Naomi ordered. Amara was there too, against orders, stubborn as her mother, the crash of breaking glass. 2 masked men entered, flashlights slicing the dark. "FBI!" Naomi shouted, taking cover behind a filing cabinet. Muzzle flashes exploded. She returned fire, not to kill but to warn. One man yelped, hit in the shoulder. Another stumbled, leg bleeding. They fled to a waiting car. Amara's hands shook, dialing 911. When the sirens finally wailed, Naomi's instincts said what her training didn't have words for. This wasn't just backlash, it was protection. Someone higher was cleaning house, the wrong house. The Bureau responded hard. Agents arrived from D.C., forensics sweeping drives, communications secured. Wilson's supporters called him a scapegoat on right-wing media. "I didn't know she was FBI," he said on air, wearing civilian clothes for sympathy. "She was acting aggressive. I did my job." The host nodded along. The narrative twisted. Outside Milfield PD, protesters split the lawn. Stand with Wilson on one side, justice for Naomi on the other. Inside, the department cracked down the middle. Officers wore subtle blue pins for him, others aligned with the chief. Robert kept calm, but at 3 a.m., a brick smashed his window with a note attached. Race traitor. He didn't tell Diana until morning. He did, however, double security around witnesses. Then came the whistleblower, Jessica Moore, a dispatcher who dated Wilson briefly. She met Amara at a coffee shop, trembling but resolute. "He bragged about protection," Jessica said. "He said the old guard would never let a black chief stay long. Said you people needed reminding who runs Milfield." She slid a USB across the table. 6 months of dispatch logs. Look where he was assigned, always the east side. Amara swallowed hard. "Why give this to us?" Jessica stared into her coffee. "Because my brother's black. I've seen the difference my whole life. I'm done being silent." The data broke everything open. Patterns of patrol targeting, tampered complaints, fake timestamps. The FBI caught Wilson deleting texts live. During an internal interview, digital forensics traced every keystroke. And then someone leaked an audio recording. A private gathering of officers laughing about cleaning up neighborhoods, disabling cameras, planting cause. Voices identified. One of them was Wilson. Another, former Chief Mercer, the mayor's aide in the background. The town erupted. Robert called a public town hall, inviting the Attorney General, the prosecutor, the FBI, and anyone with eyes to see the truth. The night came like judgment. The Milfield Community Center overflowed, residents standing shoulder to shoulder, news vans outside humming with satellite signals, cameras ready. Robert opened first. "Tonight isn't about one incident," he said. "It's about the pattern beneath it." Wilson's attorney jumped up shouting about due process, but Robert's stare silenced him. Then Naomi took the mic. The same woman who had knelt on a grocery store floor now stood beneath hot lights, composure turning into fire. "Between 2020 and 2024, she said, complaints from black residents were dismissed 87% more often than white residents' claims. The same officers were first responders at every suspicious fire. Those officers reported to supervisors tied financially to city contracts that profited when those businesses disappeared." The screen behind her filled with charts, bank transfers, property deeds. Murmurs turned to outrage. "We traced the money," Naomi continued, "from development firms to shell accounts controlled by associates of former Chief Mercer and Mayor Thompson." Mercer shifted in his seat. The mayor stared straight ahead. Then Robert played the leaked recording, Wilson's voice plain as day, bragging about keeping pressure on the east side. The tape ended. Silence, then a woman's voice from the crowd. "That's him, the one who tore my car apart after church." She stood trembling. "They told me there was no record." More voices followed. Teachers, small business owners, teenagers, each one another stone laid on the scale. The Attorney General rose. "Based on this evidence, my office is opening a civil rights investigation into the Milfield Police Department and related city officials." The room burst with gasps. Wilson stood, red-faced, pointing at Naomi. "This is all because of her. She twisted everything." Naomi didn't flinch. "What I did was buy groceries. What you did was pull a gun because you saw a threat where there was none." His attorney grabbed his arm, whispering, "Sit down," but Wilson jerked free, muttering about respect and attitude, words sharpened enough that everyone heard their venom even without slurs. 3 of his allies in tactical vests moved toward the exit, trying to slip him a thumb drive. FBI agents intercepted them. Inside were deleted files, proof of tampering. "Add obstruction," the Attorney General said. Robert stepped forward. "Officer Travis Wilson," he said evenly, "you are hereby terminated from the Milfield Police Department, effective immediately." He reached out, unpinned the badge, and the room fell silent. The metallic click echoed like a verdict. Some people cried. Others clapped softly, not out of spite, but relief. "This badge," Robert said, holding it up, "stands for trust. You broke it. Wilson was escorted out as cameras flashed. When order returned, Naomi faced the crowd again. What happened to me isn't unique, she said. It happens every day to people without badges, without cameras, without witnesses. The difference is this time, the system had to watch itself. The feed went live nationwide. Millions watched. Hashtags flooded the net. Within weeks, indictments followed. Wilson and 4 officers on civil rights charges. Mercer on corruption. The mayor on conspiracy. Alicia Chen, the store manager whose phone footage started it all, was elected interim mayor after a recall vote. She launched a transparency program and asked Naomi to consult on police reform. Robert rebuilt his department from the inside out, new training in bias recognition, an empowered civilian review board, open data policies. Within months, complaints dropped 60%, and for the first time in Milfield's history, community trust rose higher than fear. The Milfield model became a case study nationwide. 3 months later, Naomi stood before a class of new cadets in that same community hall, sunlight pouring through glass repaired after the protests. This badge, she told them, holding one aloft, is not armor. It's accountability. Wear it with humility or don't wear it at all. They applauded, not out of duty but belief. Outside, reporters asked if she'd return to D.C. For now, she smiled, justice still has work here. That afternoon, she met Amara at Westfield's new cafe, the same grocery now symbolic of change. Dad would have loved this place, Amara said, stirring her coffee. Guess what? I got accepted to Harvard, Columbia, and Georgetown. Naomi smiled, eyes misting. Your father's smiling somewhere. I want to study civil rights law, Amara added. I've seen what silence costs. Naomi nodded. Then you already passed your first case. Across town, Robert hung a photo on his office wall. 2 kids on bicycles, one black, one white, smiling like the future was easy, and beside it a newspaper clipping of 2 grown professionals standing side by side at the reform ceremony. We did it, Naomi, he murmured to himself. That night she joined him on his porch. The air smelled of rain and magnolia. Down the street, a patrol car rolled by, 2 rookies inside, one black, one Latina, both nodding respectfully at their chief and the FBI agent who changed everything. You think we made a difference? She asked quietly. Enough to start one, he said. They watched the lights fade. Inside the police academy lobby, Wilson's badge sat in a glass case labeled Integrity Lost. Children on school tours stared at it wide-eyed. Teachers explained how a single act of prejudice exposed a chain of corruption and how a community chose accountability over denial. Naomi visited sometimes, standing quietly before that display, remembering the cold floor of the grocery aisle and the weight of the cuffs, thinking of every unseen person who'd lived that fear without cameras or chiefs or headlines. She knew change was fragile, but it was breathing now, and she intended to protect it. So if you're watching this, remember, justice doesn't arrive in one grand gesture. It begins in the moment someone refuses to kneel to fear, refuses to be silent, refuses to look away. Comment below if you believe courage like Naomi's can rebuild trust where prejudice once stood. Like this video if you believe accountability should echo louder than excuses. Subscribe for more true stories of injustice met by resilience, and share this story with someone who still thinks racism only exists in history books. Because sometimes the grocery aisle is the courtroom, the camera is the witness, and a single badge falling to the floor is the sound of a system learning what justice really means.